Your response to it?
No, it's a little warmer than expected, but I'm not going to call 0.1% of an increase in prices a hot inflation report. What's happening is it's cooling. There are just a few hot spots. There are problems in getting all of inflation to come down, but the cooling trend is there. I think markets are overreacting to this. In particular, there's a big chunk of inflation, the CPI, 32%, is in shelter, and that's up 0.7%. And that's really what's driving a lot of the underlying resilience of inflation here. But a lot of that is, owner's equivalent rent. It's a very, almost a mythical concept because nobody actually pays owner's equivalent rent. So there are parts of inflation hanging on, but I think it's really important to recognize the economy is cooling here, and a lot of the things that pushed up inflation are cooling off also. So we shouldn't get messed up by the fact that it was a little higher than consensus here. The big story here is inflation is actually coming down.
David, that is convenient for a lot of the bulls, and yet the story that people are seeing right now is that the hope was we would see a much faster disinflation that would get the Fed not perhaps raising rates as much as they were saying. How can you lean against this? What parts of the market are most overreacting from your perspective?
Well, you mentioned financials, and I think what's going on is people are assuming that this will make the Fed a bit more hawkish, and I think that's true. I mean, I think that the Fed will now have more of reason to go 75 basis points next week, and I think that's what they'll do. I think the ECB obviously just did that. I think the Bank of England will do the same. But I think the Fed will also leave the door open to a smaller increase in November, maybe 50 basis points, maybe 25 basis points in December, because what they are going to see is inflation continuing actually to cool, because that's actually what's going on. I think we'll get about 0.2% in the September read. Energy prices are going to be down month over month in September also. I think we'll see the airline fares come down a bit more. I think lodging will come down a bit more. We've got a big increase in tobacco prices. No reason why we'll get that 2 months in a row. So I just think we're overreacting to this. Yes, it wasn't good news on inflation. It was worse than expected. But the big trend here is coming down. I think financials are overreacting. I have no problem with the 10-year Treasury up near 350. I think that's okay. But I think the assumption that somehow we're not dealing with inflation or it's going to get worse, I think is just wrong.